Hi, welcome back to the Listening Window. Today's story is called The Wrong Train. This story will help you practice English listening and speaking with clear, everyday English, natural expressions, emotional storytelling, and a surprising twist at the end. If you want the full script, vocabulary list, quiz, and bonus speaking prompt, you can find them in the description below. Now, let's get started. I remember the night it all began. IT was one of those long, rainy evenings when the whole world seems too wet and too tired. I was standing at the platform, soaked from the knees down, clutching my broken umbrella, just trying to get home after the longest workday of my life. The train screeched into the station, headlights slicing through the mist. Without thinking much, I hopped on, desperate just to sit down somewhere warm and dry. I didn't even look at the signs. I didn't check the schedule. I just got on. IT wasn't until about 20 minutes later, when the familiar landmarks of my usual route were nowhere to be seen, that I realized I had boarded the wrong train. My heart sank. I looked around the nearly empty car. A few people scattered in their seats, some asleep, some staring out at the dark countryside rushing by. There were no announcements, no conductor walking by, and outside, the world had turned completely rural, empty fields, the occasional flicker of a farmhouse light. I pulled out my phone to check the map, but of course, no signal. Typical, just as I was beginning to panic. A soft voice spoke from the seat across the aisle. First time on this line. I turned and saw an older woman, maybe in her late 60s, smiling gently at me. She wore a knitted scarf and had kind eyes, the kind that made you feel safe even when everything around you didn't. Yeah, I said, laughing awkwardly. Wrong train. She nodded knowingly, as if she'd seen this 100 times before. Don't worry, she said. This train always takes you where you're meant to go, even if it's not where you planned. I blinked, unsure how to respond. Was she joking or just being kind? Where does it go exactly? I asked. She smiled wider. Depends on the passenger. I must have looked confused because she chuckled softly and turned back to her knitting. I sat there, feeling the rhythm of the tracks beneath me, feeling my anxiety slowly morph into a strange sort of calm. After a while, the train slowed, and an announcement crackled through the ancient speakers, so distorted I couldn't make out a single word. The woman stood up, gathering her bag. This is my stop, she said. Yours is coming. You'll know. I watched her disappear down the aisle and out into the mist. The train jerked forward again, moving deeper into the unknown. The landscape outside grew stranger. Fields turned to dense forests, moonlight catching on the wet leaves, casting silver patterns that danced along the windows. And then, suddenly, the train pulled into another station. No name, just a single old lamp casting a weak circle of light over the platform. Somehow, I knew this was my stop. I stepped off, heart pounding. The train groaned and rolled away into the night, leaving me standing there alone. Beyond the platform was a small path leading into the trees. Something about it felt familiar, like a memory I couldn't quite grab. I followed it, after a few minutes, the path opened into a clearing. In the center was a little cafe, glowing softly, warm and alive, like something out of a dream. People were sitting outside under strings of fairy lights, laughing and talking, their faces lit by the golden glow. I walked toward it, drawn like a moth to a flame. As I got closer, I froze, sitting at one of the tables, sipping coffee and reading a book. Was my sister, my sister who had died 3 years ago. I stood there, unable to breathe, unable to move. She looked up and smiled the same smile she always had when she saw me coming home. I stumbled forward, tears already spilling down my face. She laughed lightly, the sound like a song I thought I'd never hear again. "You're late," she said, just like she used to. I sat down across from her, hands trembling. How is this possible?" I whispered. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, warm and solid and real. "This is the place between," she said simply, "for those who need it." The night blurred around us. We talked for hours, or maybe minutes, or maybe years. There was no time there. Only words and laughter and healing. At some point, the old woman from the train appeared, standing near the cafe entrance. She gave me a gentle nod. My sister smiled sadly. "You can't stay," she said softly, "but you'll carry this with you." I tried to argue, tried to hold on, but the world was already slipping. The cafe faded, the trees faded, her face was the last thing I saw, and then I woke up. I was sitting on a bench at my usual train station. The morning sun was rising, painting the sky in soft pink and gold. My phone buzzed with missed calls, worried texts. It was as if no time had passed, but something inside me had changed. The grief that had once been a constant weight on my chest was lighter now, gentler. And in my coat pocket, where there should have been nothing, I found a tiny slip of paper. It said, in my sister's handwriting, "The wrong train always takes you to the right place." I smiled through tears, tucked the note into my wallet, and stood up. It was time to start again. Thank you for listening to today's story on the listening window. If you want to practice even more, you can download the full script, vocabulary list, quiz, and bonus speaking prompts through the link below. And before you go, here's a question. Have you ever gotten lost and ended up somewhere you were meant to be? Tell me in the comments. See you next time.